This week we're talking about the most frequently asked home buyer questions, home seller questions, and the most Googled questions in real estate in 2022. Hey guys, welcome back to this week's episode. We are super excited to have you back. First and foremost, if you've been following us, you know that we have to do a quick tan check.
Okay.
And Brandy, just to see.
I'm brown.
Yeah, that's it. I know. I got a little burnt this weekend. I got the little farmer sunglass tan going on.
Yeah, and I was in Montreal and I lost my voice. So.
You lost your voice? Okay. I guess I'll have to do most of the talking. That's all right.
That's always okay.
But thanks for joining us again this week. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you like the content that we're putting out and you want to see more similar content like this. We wanted to make a bit of a different video this week because I feel like all we've been talking about lately is the market.
Yeah, market right? Crashing, market going down, market.
It's the buzzwords, but you know what? They're our most viewed videos,
yeah.
So it's tough to walk away from them, but
yeah.
We want to add a little bit extra in today.
Yeah.
So without that, let's start with frequently asked home buyer questions. We got a list here. We'll just ask them and we'll bang out the answers.
These are the ones that we come across most frequently. So if you have any other ones, feel free to ask us in the comment section as well.
Yes, absolutely. Good point. Number one, should I talk to the bank before looking at homes?
I think this is kind of controversial, but I would say yes.
Yeah? Why is that controversial?
I don't know, because sometimes it depends on the market too. Sometimes you just want to get out there and you want to know what you can play around with. But I would say you would always go to the bank because you need to know exactly what you're working with and you don't want to be looking outside of your means. Yeah,
exactly. I think 100% talk to somebody at the bank first. Make sure you at least have an idea because there's nothing worse than looking at houses that are priced, maybe higher than your budget. And when you find out your budget, you find out you can't afford it. That's super heartbreaking.
I think another point to that too, as well, is that as the interest rates change, you could be playing with different numbers as well.
Absolutely, because pre-approvals only extend out, I think, to 120 days. So you have to make sure that you stay on top of that.
And we've said this before, you have to close.
In the 120 days.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Should I buy or continue to rent? This is a huge question. I mean, we could probably make a whole episode about this one.
Absolutely.
Really quickly, I think that you have to do whatever is right for you.
Yeah.
Not everybody's meant to be a homeowner. Not everybody wants home ownership. Some people just want to kind of be nomadic, move around, that sort of thing, not have commitments or have to maintain a home.
For sure.
But if you're looking at it from a financial standpoint, I mean, if you look at our episode, was it last week we talked about, no, 2 weeks ago. If you look at the episode from 2 weeks ago, we actually talked about this a little bit where if you break down renting versus owning a house over 25 years, financially, how much better off you're going to be just based on the pay down in the mortgage, right?
Exactly.
And as we mentioned last week, there's always the option if you can only afford to purchase in a home in an area that you don't want to live in, you could always purchase that home and rent it out, but then rent in a neighborhood that you want to live in.
Yeah.
Number 3, I own a home. Should I buy another before selling my current home?
I think this is market dependent.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's always your tolerance too. Like it goes either way. If you buy before you sell, then you're under the gun to sell. So you may end up taking less for your house. If you end up selling first, then you got to make sure you kind of have a contingency of where you're going to go in case the home that, your dream home doesn't pop up. Because you don't want to buy a house that you're not like in love with, right? Just to buy a house.
Yeah, I think there's also those people who really got lucky and sold in that peak in February, and we're dealing with all those buyers right now.
Yeah, if you sold in the peak and buying now, I mean, that's definitely right now a great opportunity. Let's see, do I need a realtor when buying a home? No brainer. Yes.
Obviously.
We're not going to say no.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a huge advantage. Number one, it's free to work with a real estate agent when you're purchasing a home. Doesn't cost you anything. Plus, you get access to all of our data, our system, all of our knowledge of the neighborhoods, especially, when you're working with realtors from that geographic location. Like,
most importantly,
it's been working with the right realtor is good. Like, to follow up on that, if, you're buying in Hamilton, but you're working with a Toronto agent, it almost doesn't make sense because they don't understand the nuances of the market here like we do.
Yeah, we have no shame referring you out too if that's beyond our scope of area. We think we want you to be with the best person in that area as possible.
Yeah, it's true. I've turned business down that's, even in Cambridge and stuff, because I feel like I don't
Yeah.
really know that
Yeah,
area, so
absolutely.
I'll give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Who pays the realtor fees when buying a home?
Yeah, so this kind of leads off of the last one.
Mhm.
Buyers, you don't have to pay anything.
So we get paid by the sellers.
Yes.
It's when the seller signs the listing agreement with the listing agent, at that time they determine how much they want to pay out, as a commission. So we get, it's sort of almost like a finder's fee is what the buyer's agents get. So working with us is free because we get paid by the sellers. So
Yeah.
it's a huge advantage to you.
Yeah.
How many homes should I look at before putting in an offer?
Well, I almost think this is kind of market dependent as well, because before you didn't really have as much time. If you saw something, it was kind of like a trigger reaction. But now I find buyers have a little bit more of a leniency. And
Yeah, and it's completely person dependent, like individual dependent too. I've had people that have purchased the second home that they've seen.
Yeah, that's
I've
true.
had people that I've shown 50 homes to, over
Yeah.
the course of 5 years before
Yeah.
they purchase something. So
some people really know what they like, and some people they find out as they go.
yeah, and that's the biggest thing, especially with first-time home buyers. Like, don't be scared if you find a house that is perfect for you on the first day out and it ticks all of the boxes. Don't be scared to make that offer.
Yeah.
Because you might be kicking yourself down the road.
Yeah,
if you
just
missed
maybe
out
do
on
your
it.
due diligence on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long does the seller have to respond to my offer? So this one is offer dependent. You as the buyer, we as the buyer's agents, we give that timeline to the sellers on when we want a response. So say we saw a house in the afternoon, you like it, we could give them till midnight to respond. We could give them till noon the next day. Sometimes we're dealing with sellers that are out of country, so we need 48 hours for them to respond to that offer. So
Yeah.
sometimes we'll need to do that. So that's sort of a case by case scenario. But I'd say most common, is probably 12 hours. Unless you're showing a house late at night, it might be the next night, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
What if my offer is rejected? So,
I guess you can do a few things there.
Yeah.
So if your offer is rejected, you can, they can counter you. They can just reject it and say, that's it, we're not taking it again. Or you can offer another offer. But
yeah, so just because your offer is rejected doesn't mean you can come back to that house. You can absolutely make another offer on that property. If there was a reason they rejected it, maybe improve on that. But doesn't mean that it's the end of the deal just because
No.
it's rejected. It's
Exactly.
definitely, we can always come back and attempt another offer. Usually the most times I see an offer rejected is either because of the price is probably the number one reason we see rejected offers.
Yeah.
Number two, I would say it is the
Well-
can be conditions like a sale of
Yes.
property condition, which is like a 30-day condition.
Yeah.
But I guess, I don't know, we can explain that.
I would say when the market was hotter, I was having offers rejected on financing because why would I take yours? There's a million other on the table that don't have that. Now, even conditions, financing, all those guys, whereas now there's a little more leniency in the market.
Yeah, for sure. Do I have the option to do any inspections? Of course, yeah. Offer dependent again.
Yeah. I'm the biggest fan of pre-inspections.
You love them, but you know what?
Pre-consults.
Yeah,
sorry.
but
Stuart would kill me on.
He'd kill you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch that episode with Stuart. It's actually super informative. One of our earlier episodes, I forget the episode number, but Stuart, the home inspector, go back to our content, you'll see it.
Yeah, he's a character.
He is. He's a talker, that's for sure. But even now, we're getting offers accepted conditional on home inspection.
Yeah.
So you have your 5 business days to go in there, bring an inspector. The good thing with a home inspection afterwards, you have 3 options. One, if the inspection comes back really bad, you can walk from the property. Or you can come back to the sellers, negotiate money off the price to cover the repairs, or you can negotiate for the sellers to do the repairs. But that's the benefit of that home inspection condition. So yeah, absolutely, you can do that. Do I need a final walkthrough?
I would highly recommend a final walkthrough. Usually we do 3 visits, and that's usually put in the offer. The final one is like, is there anything left that you could check? Check all the water. I had an issue with that with a client in the winter. The pipes burst on us and nothing was on, and there's just nothing we could do about it, but just being really diligent with every little thing in the house. Like, take your time, walk the outside, walk the inside, turn everything on.
Absolutely, because that's your last chance. Because once you close on the property, the next day, say your fridge is broken, you don't
That's
really
it.
have recourse for that. So you want to make sure that everything that is supposed to be working in that offer is in working order. So yeah, final walkthrough, super important. When is the closing date? Now, this is something I actually find myself explaining quite a bit.
Yeah.
What a closing date even is.
Yeah,
If you're a
fair enough.
first-time buyer,
Yeah.
the closing date or completion date, that's basically the day that you get the keys. That is also the day that your mortgage takes effect.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. And that closing date can really be any time. If you're buying a house, usually it'll be a little seller dependent. The seller might want, say they haven't purchased a house. They might not want to close for 3 months.
Yeah.
Or say they purchased something, they need to close quick. It might be 30 days. I'd say the average amount of time for a closing would be about 60 days, so 2 months.
Yeah.
But anything from 30 to 120, we see that range super often.
I'm seeing the range get a little bit longer now. Before I was closing houses on a month.
Yeah.
A month I was closing.
That's true. I actually did one 15 days this year. It was,
Really?
15-day
that's
close.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I guess that's our frequently asked home buyer questions, the top ones that we could find. As well, like Brandy mentioned earlier in the video, if you have any questions you want us to answer with the home buying process, we are more than happy to assist you with that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, pop those in the comments below. All right, now moving back into our topic, moving on to our new topic, frequently asked questions by home sellers. I think we sometimes forget that because we've helped people, purchase a home, we always just assume that somebody's going to know how to sell it.
It's true.
But there's a lot of questions, so this is a great topic. We are
Yeah.
going to dive into these. When is the best time to sell my house?
I think there's a couple of factors here. It kind of depends. I would say it would depend on what you're selling. For instance, if you're selling a condo, we've talked about this before. It's good to sell in the spring and the fall because students, fluctuation coming in and out of the city. But anything else, I would say it's market dependent.
Yeah, I mean, like if you have a property that is, you got a beautiful backyard, pool, landscaping, all that stuff, obviously your best bet is spring, summertime. You wouldn't, necessarily want to sell in December. But so it's all fluctuates. Like sometimes if you wait until December, there's less competition.
Exactly.
So more people are going to look at your house. The really serious buyers are out.
Yeah.
When you list in the spring, you do have a lot of competition because I'm sure you've heard it, and if you haven't heard it, the springtime is always the busiest
Yeah.
market in real estate.
Yeah.
That's when we see the most amount of listings like we're seeing right now. So definitely really depends on your situation, what your goals are of where you want to move and when you want to be there, and we'll plan your home sale around that.
Yeah.
What steps should I take to prepare my home for sale?
What would you say? I would say
Lots of steps.
Many steps. Yeah.
Number one, you want to give it a deep clean and you want to declutter. I would say that is the top thing. Anytime I've had a stager come in or a staging consultation, the number one thing is the least amount of items in the house. I mean, you really want to minimize your furniture. You want to keep your kitchen counters clear of your air fryer and your kettle and all that sort of thing. You want it to look nice and open. And then cleanliness. Cleanliness is huge because even me personally, and I know clients that I've looked at houses before, we're more inclined to look at a house, make an offer on it, even say that the kitchen is dated, from the 80s, but it is spotless and it's immaculate. Like some of those houses that have, like an old Nona or old Italian couples lived in for like 50 years, but you walk in and it's spotless. You're like, okay, this is nice. You know that you're walking in.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So I'd say those are the two major things. Then obviously we can get into the topic of staging and that, but that's a whole different thing.
I find when clients or buyers, they're looking at a house and it's really messy, then they just start nitpicking everything. So you just got to start off on a good fit. But
yeah.
I've also recommended to clients just getting a temporary storage unit before, and it just helps get it all out of the house in the basement. And
yeah, because you don't want to move everything from upstairs to the basement because then the basement just looks like you're moving it around.
Yeah.
I agree. And then try to depersonalize the house as much as possible. And by that I mean take down the artwork or photos of you, your family, that sort of thing. Because the goal is when buyers come through, you want them to picture themselves in that house. You don't want them looking at the house and then looking at the family that's currently living in the house. It's just, I don't know, it's a bit of an awkward thing. So you want to depersonalize for sure. So those would be probably my top recommendations.
I would also say if you can do any minor changes for curb value, just clean it up. Mow the grass, cut the curbs. If you have any little paint jobs, do it. You know, if your eaves shop is falling apart, maybe just throw a little bit into
Back
that.
up. Yeah, minor repairs. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Because you're right, if somebody notices something wrong, small,
It throws
then
the whole thing off.
yeah,
Then they start picking the house.
exponentially. What should I disclose to potential buyers? So there are certain things that by law need to be disclosed. Some of these things include if there's been a death in the house, if there's been a murder, a suicide, that type of thing. If you have mold, if there's been leaks in the basement, if you have marijuana, that's it. Even though weed's legal, you still have to disclose if you've grown it inside the house, because, you know, if it's not, even if it is properly ventilated, I mean, it's still just a bit of a stigma, especially with insurance companies, because you can get mold in the vents and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
So that's a big disclosure. Yeah, legal substances is a big one if it's ever been used as a grow op or a meth lab.
Yeah. I did a walkthrough with an inspector before, and we could tell, she could tell, I couldn't tell. She could tell that there was a grow op in there, and I was like, how? And she's like, you can see like black spots in areas like mold where moisture has collected that shouldn't normally be there.
So those are huge disclosures, and asbestos as well, and the UFI uroformaldehyde foam insulation. Those are big things just because of the health reasons. So those are things that you must disclose. Yeah, covers that. Should I price my home higher to leave room for negotiations? I think we're getting into that market.
Yeah.
I think we are. Before it was price it low and negotiate upwards. Now it's opposite. Now you want to price it, you know, to have a little bit of wiggle room, because when you're on the market for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, which now, you know, we are at the average days on market of 14 days, people are coming in, and I mean, we got 30,000 off one a couple weeks ago, right? $799, got it for $770, whatever, right? So definitely leave some room in there for the price that you want. You don't necessarily just want to go right to your price, because let's face it, everybody wants a deal on something if they can get it, right? If it's sitting there, you're thinking, well, let's try to at least knock 5K off or something,
I think it's also the mindset of what's going on too right now. Everyone thinks I should be getting a deal on a home. So it's almost causing the stigma that I should negotiate down. So kind of start high and allow that wiggle room.
Yeah, for sure. Where are we? How long does the listing agreement last? Again, this is agent dependent. Personally, I don't like putting anybody in more than a 90-day agreement because things change. I would not recommend signing a 6-month agreement.
I've seen a few 6 months.
Yeah, some agents are gonna hate you for saying that. But I think, like, if you're why are you signing a 6-month agreement? There's no need to sign that. Like, it's half a year. That's nuts.
Yeah.
You know?
That's probably saying, like, I don't feel confident selling your home.
I need time. You know, 90 days at the max, I would say. Like, when the market was crazy, I was just doing 30-day listings. But now that things are slowing down, 90 days with our average days on market getting out there, we do need a bit more time. But yeah, I'd say 90 days max.
I agree.
What happens if I'm not happy and want to cancel the contract? Again, this is agent dependent. If you call me or Brandy, we list your house and you want to cancel, we're not going to charge you anything.
No.
Like, even if I'm into my pocket for staging, photography and all that, a few $1,000s, and you want to cancel it, we'll cut it. I mean, obviously there's a reason that it's not working out. We don't ever want to work with somebody that doesn't want to work with us. We don't ever want to lock somebody into an agreement.
I never want to feel like we're forcing someone into something. It's not comfortable on both ends. So.
There's no point. If you don't work with us, we don't want to work with you. But
that's not true.
You got to be you got to be careful. Some agents will put in the contract, and you got to be cognizant of it. They will put in a cancellation fee that if you cancel, you have to pay to cancel the contract. So just be careful when you're signing that paperwork.
Well, like, some agents panic, right? Like staging, all that stuff going in. It can be up to a few grand.
Oh yeah, it's expensive, especially for agents that are starting out and maybe don't have enough in their business account to float those expenses, right? How do I respond to lowball offers? So the way people love to respond to this one, I find, is telling them to go take a hike. That's completely wrong. I would not do that. Yeah, everybody's like, you're low, get out of here, right? And that's a mentality that needs to go away. Because,
don't be doing that in this market.
Yeah, you want to keep the offer alive. So we always like to keep the ball in the other person's court. If somebody brings you a low ball offer, what you need to do is instead just counter them with what you want. Even if you counter them back full price, just counter them back.
Yeah.
The offer's back in their court.
Yeah.
Here's what we want. We're not messing around. Boom. But to just say take a hike, you're essentially you're killing all hopes of the deal happening, because all you're going to do is aggravate the buyers, or give them, even though you see it as offensive that they're giving you a lowball offer. You got to remember, people are always going to bring lowball offers. It's going to happen. You just work with it, come back in at whatever price you're comfortable with, and go from there. But definitely, I wouldn't just walk away from it.
Yeah, and right now, actually, this week, as of next week, we're sitting at about double the listings to sold. So you don't know when the next offer would be rolling in. You don't want to kill that. Sorry.
Yeah, I know you keep hitting this.
Back in the mic.
These are just for show, by the way. That's why you're not hearing anything.
Just kidding. Okay.
Should I be present during showings at my home? Okay, that's two questions. So should I be present during showings at my home?
No. I can roll that into something else, and I won't go there. But it's just not comfortable for anyone. First of all, you're obviously going to be biased to your house. That's your home. You love it, and you don't want to accidentally point out things that don't need to be pointed out. And you just also don't want to make the buyer uncomfortable. They're there trying to look for their home. Let them do their thing.
It's really awkward when people are home. When we're showing houses and the homeowners are home, we're literally like, we could spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes in a house, but every time we go into a house and the sellers are home, we're like in and out because the buyers are just uncomfortable with it, and they're not even comfortable talking about it. Like, we're in the house, we usually like to talk about, but buyers get uncomfortable in that situation. So please just take the dog for a walk, go to the park, something.
Same thing with tenants.
Get out of the house.
That one's not fun.
But that's tough. That's with tenants. If they're home, they're home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Will you be holding an open house? Again, that's agent dependent. Right now, open houses are huge.
Yeah,
I know. Like,
absolutely.
we do them on pretty much every listing. Brandy's becoming the queen of open houses over here. She loves it.
I do door crashers if you're
door crashers.
Yeah. I know you said on your Hunter Street listing, Amber from our team did an open house, and you said you got 6 couples alone that came through. So it is beneficial right now. Yeah,
because some people just are in on the weekend, and maybe they want to look at homes, and it's easier for them to just go to these open houses than it is to, line up the appointment. They just feel more comfortable.
Exactly.
But it's more exposure, so there's nothing wrong with it. Absolutely, I think open houses should be happening right now.
Yes, for sure.
Last question, should I include appliances?
It's totally dependent on you, but if you don't need them right now, I would kind of sweeten the deal with it.
I think you should leave them. I know you just bought that expensive washer and dryer, but you should leave it. Because when people are buying your house, you got to remember they're putting up that down payment, the closing costs, all that. Now they got to come up with another whatever for appliances, right? Unless you have some, like a Wolf or a Viking or something, like a $25,000 stove or expensive Sub-Zero fridges, right? Even those, you got to leave those for sure. But those can be negotiable points. But for your average everyday, like Samsung, Panasonic, whatever appliance, GE, just leave the appliances. They're there for the house. They fit in the spaces nicely. I would leave them. I wouldn't take them.
I think I've had I would say 99% of the buyers that I've worked with have all asked me in a house, does this stay?
Does it come with appliances?
Does it come with the washer and dryer?
Yeah. And another one, window coverings is a big one to leave behind, because most window coverings, like let's say 90% of them are made for the house. Unless you have something that your grandma knitted for you hanging over the windows, you want to take it. Take it. Light fixtures is another one. Usually you want to leave all the kitchen fixtures, dining, like all the light fixtures in the house stay.
20 years of smoke.
That's
you can take them.
unless again you have a chandelier that was like a wedding present from a cousin or something, right? Like you want to keep it. Other than that, I'd say leave all those items. That concludes it. I hope we answered a lot of these questions that you guys are curious about. If you want to, if you have more questions about selling a house or the process or anything about it, feel free to drop a comment below or message us directly, and we'd be super happy to answer it for you. Now, Brandy, let's shift into our next topic. We wanted to answer the top Googled questions about real estate in 2022. Unfortunately, this is going to bring us back down the path that we've been talking about for months, which explains why these are our most popular videos. 5 most Googled questions about real estate 2022. Let's go. Is the housing market going to crash? I don't know.
I'll laugh at this every single time because.
You know what? My crystal ball, I left it at home today.
Exactly.
We can't. I mean, we don't know, guys. Listen, all we know is that the market has been declining because the interest rates have gone up. We don't know if this is going to be. We're going to see. Some people predicting the interest rates might come back down in January 2023 to middle of 2023, like early to mid. We don't know how true that is. It's all just hearsay. All we really know is what's happening in the market right now.
Exactly. But look, there's so many factors that weigh in. There's immigration. There was stress tests. There was people who went to B lenders. There is, the rates have fluctuated over history forever in real estate, and all we know statistically, it's always gone up. So will it level out or dip a bit? Probably as the market starts to slow down, but listings are still up, and I think that it will go back up eventually. It's going to become a really good time to buy.
Yeah, and I mean the average price is still up from last year at the point of making this video by 13%. We're June 15th right now, but yeah, that's how far we film our videos in advance, by the way. I think that with it crashing, I don't know. If it goes down, it'll always come back up, like you said. So is it going to crash? Who knows? It may. You mentioned the stress test. The banks over the last few years have put that in so we don't have an issue like in 2008.
Yeah.
We've kind of been making, already pre-qualifying people at these 5% interest rates.
Exactly.
So we shouldn't expect to see people have issues paying for their house. And there's also options when they go to refinance. If you can't afford it, you just extend your amortization out, stuff like that, right?
And in the past, we're not mortgage advisors, but in the past, a lot would always recommend go variable because it's still not at the catch-up rate. But I think it's just a good time to maybe start considering a fixed if you can't afford those a few $100 fluctuation gaps.
Yeah, if you want to know what your monthly payment is.
Yeah.
Although right now, at the time of this, I'd probably go variable still.
Still.
Because 2.7 variable versus 4.4 fixed. It would take a lot of quarter-point hikes to catch up.
For sure, but there's some people who can't afford.
Yeah, some people, they want to know what their monthly, especially if it's an investment property too. You kind of want to have your set things. When will the housing market crash? This is question number 2. When will it? I don't know. Why do you guys Google this stuff?
Yeah, I know.
When will it
Everyone's
crash?
Googling
Like, is somebody out there that's going to say, like, from the government, okay, this is the day.
Yeah.
This is the day it's crashing.
Yeah. When should I buy? When should I sell? Yeah.
We don't know when it's going to crash. No idea. All we know is that if it does, it'll come back up. That's what we've seen throughout history in Canada. Why is the housing market so high right now? So that's something that's been happening over the last few years. It really started back just, I guess, around 2015 was when we first started to see it. We started to see historically low interest rates. We saw a wave of immigration, and that really spiked things forward. Then it started to taper off a bit in 2018.
Yeah.
2019 as well. It was a very even market, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then we started to see lower interest rates, which really drove buying. A lot of people started to appreciate home ownership because, I guess, traveling stopped, that sort of thing.
Sure.
So there was a huge wave of people looking for properties.
Yeah.
And as things went up, investors started to see, holy, look at these gains. So then you start to see investors jump in. Like in 2021, the largest group of home purchasers in Canada was investors, and that's just under 25%. So almost 1 out of every 4 purchaser in 2021 was purchasing a second or more property.
Yeah.
So that's partially why the market's so high. But we're starting to see the prices come down. That's because the interest rates have gone up, so affordability has gone down. And I don't know where the bottom is. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it is, right? Like we talked about it, watch our video from 2 weeks ago. We kind of talked about finding the balance there. Is the housing market slowing down? Just talked about that. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
I mentioned previously, right now we're sitting at about double listings to solds. So there's more out there for people to look at.
And we're even seeing, I actually texted it to my clients, was it yesterday? We had, we had just as many price reductions as we did, I'm probably not gonna be able to find the number in time, but we had just as many price reductions as we did sold properties yesterday. That just shows like how much, for every property selling, there's 2 getting listed and 1 reducing their price.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And we can search the days on market as well, and they've gone up a lot.
Yeah, it's very rare to see things sell quickly in a week now.
Yeah.
When will the housing market get better? So this question, I don't know if they mean get better in terms of affordability or get better in terms of things leveling out? I guess we can take that question as things getting better when things will be kind of even, right? When we get to that balanced market. Right. Go ahead.
Okay. I think, the Bank of Canada, they have their kind of idea. They literally just want to level out how fast inflation is growing. And they said they're going to keep hiking rates well into 2023. So that's their plan. So that's going to at least be another year or so. But
yeah, it could be like their goal target of inflation is like 2%, and I think last month when we looked at the stats, it was like 6% or something. Yeah. So they're trying to raise it to bring it down.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's also other factors too, like the war and all that stuff, right? Gas prices, holy. But yeah, I think that we are still in a seller's market in terms of like historically what defines a seller's market. When we look at our months of inventory. If you're curious about that, we talk about it in almost every video we do.
Yeah.
But the months of inventory, until we hit a certain point, we are still technically in a seller's market. Like things are still going in 30 to 60 days.
Yeah.
Average, well, we say that, but average days on market's 14. I'll be curious to see what this month's average is though, because it's got to be way higher than that.
Yeah.
But with the average days on market climbing, it's going to shift into a more balanced market. And as we have more inventory sitting on there and there's more options for buyers, we're going to get that balance. Like I remember I mentioned it before on the podcast, back before all this craziness, we used to have a house and be like, okay, your average days on market in the area is 63 days or 80 days. So be prepared to sit there.
Yeah.
We'd be looking at houses that were on the market for 5 months before they sold.
That's crazy.
It just comes down to the right buyer again, right?
For sure.
And the marketing. So
patience.
So when will it get better? I don't know. I got no clue. Will it get better? I hope so. I hope we get that balance. It's right now all over the place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's why these questions are Googled so often. Everybody's just looking for that answer. I don't know if you're looking because you're trying to time the market or you're just curious about it, which I heard, and I'm going to say for Steve Ackerman on our team, this quote's for him. I said it, and he made fun of me because I heard it for the first time like a year ago. Was that time in the market is better than trying to time the market, which I guess is a big investor quote. I don't know, I never heard of it, but I thought it was good, but he made fun of me. But basically the purpose is if you try to time it, it's really hard to time it and win. Historically, what we've seen is that prices in Canada have doubled every 10 years. So the market does always increase over the long run. So based on that, historically, it just shows that the longer you're in the market, the better. Real estate is no longer going to be this investment tool where you buy it, you sell it 6 months later for $100K and buy another one and do it again. That's not going to happen anymore. Real estate's going back to the way it was earlier, like early 2000s, when you bought it and you increased maybe 15-20% over 5 years or something, right? Maybe 10, but nothing like that. Nothing like what we've been seeing in the last few years. The quick money in real estate is gone.
Yeah.
You got to look at it now as more of a long-term investment.
Yeah, and I think live in your means as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. No expansion on that?
I don't know. I was just thinking before, like when people were paying $100,000, $200,000 over asking, who knows what's going to happen to those people when the rates go up and you went variable. So just buy a house within your means at this point.
That's it. Yeah. Start considering that fixed rate if you need to.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much for joining us. If you do have other questions that I guess weren't the top Googled questions, but you want us to answer them, we'd be more than happy to drop it in the comments below. Again, thank you so much for joining us this week. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ding that little bell for a notification so you get notified when our new videos come up. But other than that, thanks so much for joining us again this week. We'll talk to you again next week.
See you later.